Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Dawn here. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about my 3 best tips that I had for young graphic designers. Actually, you don't have to be young. Graphic designers who are starting out in the freelance design industry. Back when I first started doing graphic design, I was a jobless college graduate and I had no idea that I would be working with the content creators that I am working with today, and also being associated with brands like Fenty Beauty or ColourPop was just something that I had never imagined myself of doing and achieving, especially at a pretty young age. I wanted to pop in here and provide some guidance on 3 best tips that I personally learned from my trials and tribulations, making the mistakes that I made, and now I can confidently say that these are the things that you should be mindful of if you want to get your foot into the door. All right, so let's get started. The first tip that I have for you is to utilize social media graphic design. And I know this is a little bit of a what, like I went to art school and no one taught me about social media design. Trust me, I get it. Throughout my 4 years of college, no one freaking taught me anything about social media design. Everything I learned in school was like,
go into a big graphic design agency or advertising agency and, work your way up, maybe grind for like 5 years in your entry-level position, and then you'll be able to work your way up to being like a senior designer, and then afterwards, maybe you'll have a shot at becoming some kind of an art director or a creative director.
That was what I was taught, and that was what I just knew. So when I graduated from college, I was just freaking applying for the randomest entry-level designer job positions everywhere, even though I wasn't even deep down that passionate about them. What actually got me through the door was social media design, of all things. I know as a designer, sometimes in terms of this like hierarchy of design, you are often taught that, something like logo and branding is up there, right? And something like, social media design, Instagram stories, or things like that are kind of considered a little bit lower level, just because I guess it's not something that's considered more like a face of your brand. And I totally get it, but that is exactly why you should start off with social media design when you are working as a freelance graphic designer. So to give you a little backstory, how I started working with the content creators that I love, and I was watching them and I just wanted to work with them. I started emailing my favorite content creators and I started offering really cheap, affordable YouTube thumbnails to these content creators who saw my portfolio and they were kind of interested. And so I was like, let me make some of your thumbnails, and if you like it, you can use it. If you don't, it's all good. And what I realized is that because things like thumbnails or Instagram stories, they're considered much less of a risk for their brand as opposed to having you do the whole banner or the whole logo. They are surprisingly a lot more willing to try you out. Consider it like they're at a grocery store, these clients, and you are the lady that's like offering free food samples. That's you, and the food samples is, I guess, these lower level, quote unquote, social media graphics. And so by offering, really good designs in these thumbnails or Instagram stories, you can blow them out of the water and they'll be like, oh my God, like this makes such a huge difference. More people are clicking on it, my videos, or maybe I got more swipe ups than usual. Then that is like your way to prove to these people that you are totally capable of creating these beautiful, aesthetically pleasing designs that are very on brand with what they like. And when they know that, they are going to be much more willing to come back to you and try you out for a slightly bigger project. What's really cool about social media design is that it's such a booming industry right now. And honestly, it is true what they say when they say that the future is digital. For instance, podcasts, right? I know they've been around for the past maybe like 4 or 5 years, but I would say that compared to the rest of things that is included in the history of design, podcast design is a relatively new thing. And two of my clients last year launched their own podcast. That was a huge success for both of them. And I was lucky enough to be in a good place with these clients where they wanted to trust me to design their podcast album cover. And I was also lucky enough to design all the social media assets for these podcasts when they're launching, or when they're taking weekly clips of their highlight moments and uploading them onto Instagram and whatnot. They would use these templates that I created for them. So I guess I'm just telling this story to show you that the possibilities are endless and you can just dive right in, and honestly, whatever you're passionate about, whether it's beauty, fashion, art, food, tech, cars, comedy, honestly, the list goes on. Whatever your passion is, I am so sure that you can apply social media design to your niche and what you're passionate about. So please keep this in mind when you are approaching your next potential client and try it out. Okay, so now that we've talked about the first tip, which was to utilize social media graphics, the second tip that I have for you is to create an online portfolio. I know that it's hard to have a portfolio, especially if you didn't go to an art school and you didn't really have the chances during college or whenever to work on these smaller projects to put into your portfolio. That's completely fine. It is totally okay if you don't have a portfolio right now, but that being said, your goal is to be able to work towards having one. And the faster you can have a portfolio, the easier it'll be for you to start pitching yourself to your clients. And not only that, but to pitch yourself to clients who are actually going to be interested in your specific design style or color scheme or whatever it is that you have as part of your art. The client will be able to identify that in your work and come to you and work with you. So how do you create your own online portfolio, let's say? There's a couple different platforms that I highly recommend. Obviously, I'm sure you guys have all heard of Squarespace. It is kind of like the Apple of these blog websites because they have such beautiful user interfaces, and even without any coding knowledge or skills, it's super easy because they allow you to move around your content blocks and just make it so easy for you to create a super seamless and beautiful website. So if you don't have a lot of coding knowledge, Squarespace is the site for you. The other portfolio website that I also highly recommend is Behance. Behance is developed by Adobe, so it's kind of legit. And if you go on it, it has this cool social component to their website, which I think is really cool. So on Behance, you can follow other creatives, follow other designers, and you can, like their work, you can comment on it, you can share it. So they've really incorporated this social element to their portfolio sites, which makes it really engaging. And I think that makes it really fun. So I definitely here and there spend hours on Behance just looking at other people's work and commenting and just being like, wow, you're so good, whatever. And I think it's a really fun way to get discovered too and meet a lot of other creative talent. So that definitely gives you an edge over other platforms like Squarespace or the other ones that I'll talk about soon. In addition to Squarespace and Behance, I also really like WordPress, and WordPress is actually what I'm using for my website, DLD.studio. And when you go onto my website, you will see that there are so many different elements that have clearly been very customized and coded in, and that is what WordPress is great for. So if you are a designer that has a lot of coding knowledge, or if you just need a lot of customization for your websites, then I really like WordPress because it is the easiest to install all these new plugins that allow you to customize your website even more. So for instance, when I first built my WordPress website, it looked like and it was pretty basic, but I worked with a good friend who is a coder, and I was able to bring my dream website to life. So what I did was I created all these mock-ups, and I created all these different elements that I wanted to animate in the background, like the blue butterfly and these like pearls and stuff. And then I sent it over to my friend who was able to code all these elements in so that when you go onto my website now, you can see all these different assets and images like animate. And what's also really cool about WordPress is obviously the aspect of being able to add things like WooCommerce and a shop page. And this is not something you can do on, let's say, Behance. I was able to upload, the inventory of all my different products that I'm selling on my website and have a whole nother shop page. And the plugin was really easy and it just allowed all of that to happen magically. So I like WordPress, but that's definitely not recommended if you are like a beginner that just wants something easy and seamless and not too much of a headache. Okay, so these were some of my favorite websites for portfolio development that I highly recommend. I always also say make sure that your portfolio looks good on mobile, because a lot of the times nowadays, especially if you're advertising your work through, Instagram and all these social platforms, it's oftentimes that people are just gonna swipe up or do whatever and just click on the link and look at your portfolio on their phones. So when they do that, you want to make sure that it doesn't load like super tiny as if it's on a desktop or something, and make sure that it's mobile optimized, and really make it easy for people to discover you and want to email you, reach out to you, work with you, because that's what's going to take you far when it comes to marketing yourself. Lastly, the reason why I personally think that having a good portfolio is so important is because people can see your work and determine if they want to work with you or not. So for me, I have a very distinct style that is very obvious when they visit my portfolio. So people who do reach out to me, it is often very seamless because they're familiar with my work, they're familiar with my brand, and that is what they want. So being able to have a portfolio where people can just go, oh yeah, this is the girl, and just have a contact page or a contact form on your website too, so it's easy for them to reach out to you, and then boom, you've got your new client. Okay, so the last and possibly the most important tip that I have for designers, freelance designers, is to create a healthy relationship with your clients. And I really want to highlight this tip because in a way, this is what's going to keep you afloat and provide security. And I know that's very important as a freelance designer, since it's not guaranteed that you will get recurring work. So when you finish your project, it is not a one and done situation. And I think that's a really important mentality to have, because the goal here is to not keep doing one-off projects and starting over with a new client every time. The goal here is to do good work, have the client love you and love your work, and come back for some mo. And what's really awesome, going back to my first tip about working with content creators, people in social media, is that they always have recurring work because of the fact that being a content creator means you have to constantly pump stuff out. Whether it's products, whether it's videos, whether it's new collabs, whatever it is, they always have to put out content. And that means that all these things that they're putting out needs assets. It needs video assets, it needs graphic design assets, and that's where you come in. So for me, after doing a good job with the work that I do for my clients, I always, make sure that they're really happy with the work. And if they are, back in the day, I used to even ask for referrals. When they are happy with your work, it is so important for you to be like, oh my God, that makes me so happy. Thank you so much. And, I also just wanted to politely ask if, you happen to know any friends or anybody in your network that's looking for a graphic designer or just looking to get some designs done for their next project. It would mean the world to me if you could refer them to me. Just say that. And you'll be surprised by how many people are actually willing to help you out. And even if they don't refer you, they will come back themselves, which is in a way the better case, I love working with clients who are putting me on retainer, coming back to me every month, every week actually, and having me create new intros, new Instagram stories for their platforms. It is the best scenario for me because A, it provides security, and B, I don't have to do as much research and work because I am already so familiar with their brand. And there's a base level of trust that's been established between me and the client, the designer and the client. So that is kind of the goal. So with that goal in mind, work towards building a healthy relationship with your client. Also throw your ego away when you are going back and forth about designs, as it is important to listen to them and really figure out what they're looking for, but to also be able to clearly communicate from your expertise and your standpoint what is doable and what is not. What you think is a good idea and what you think is a not so great idea. They actually really appreciate honest feedback because at the end of the day, they're not the designers, you are. It's like dating when you're working with clients. As weird as that sounds, you need to respect each other's boundaries, you need to really listen to what the other person is saying, and most important of all, you have to do good work and make them be proud, and obviously they will compensate you fairly for what you asked for, making you happy. Okay, so I know we talked about a lot today, so let's do a quick recap of the 3 different tips. 1 is to offer social media graphics as a low-risk service to potential clients that you want to work with so that it's easier for them to take a shot with you. And 2, make sure that you are developing an online portfolio that is easy for clients to access and view your work and even contact you from. And 3rd tip is to develop a healthy, positive relationship with your client, because it is most important to have an ongoing relationship where they're coming back to you for more work, and it provides the designer security. I really want to emphasize that these 3 tips were the reason why I was able to get to where I am today. And it blows my mind too that I've done so much more than just graphic design now. My clients through this method have offered to not only have me do their designs, but they've had me do their content photography. I've also been brought on as an art director for several photo shoots for my clients, and I've also now gotten to a point where I can collaborate with so many different types of creatives in the industry to produce like higher level work, and it's just been such a fun journey. And that's why I am here today to tell you guys that you can do it too. And these are all the tips that I personally learned from my own experiences. And that actually also leads me to talk a little bit about what I've been working on for the past few months. Honestly, it's not even months, it's actually the past few years. When I was getting started, I didn't have a graphic designer or like a mentor that I could look up to and go to for these types of advice. So I really had to make my own mistakes and figure things out for myself. But that is what inspired me to create DLD Academy, because I really poured my heart and soul into developing this career for myself. And I know that there are so many other talented designers out there who just haven't figured out exactly how they're gonna do it, but they have all the talents, and I know you do too. So if you want more guidance from me and would like step-by-step tutorials on how I make intros, logos, then if you are interested, I will put a link below for my very own DLD Academy. That's where you'll be learning more about, also the tips on how to communicate with clients and how to pitch yourself, and even the hairy topics like how to develop your own rates and how you can get your client to agree to those rates. So yeah, I'm so excited to be embarking on this new journey, and even if you don't join DLD Academy, no worries. I'm just so grateful to have you all in my community, and I'll be back with the next one. Also, just wanted to quickly add in that I am now making myself accountable. So I will be coming back with a new video every other week. It's just something that I'm working on right now with my current schedule. It's really hard to transition into going back to making like one video a week, but I am totally keeping myself accountable to do 2 videos a month from now on. So thanks you guys for being patient with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!